Hi, my name's Sean Bouquet. I am going to talk about how I hold this instrument and how I teach students to hold the violin or the viola. I have a bachelor's of music education. I have a master's of music from Central Michigan in the viola. My bachelor's is in the violin. I'm the current studio chair for the American String Teacher Association in Michigan, and I've been teaching privately and in the schools for about 15 years. So, first, just how I got to changing how I hold the instrument. I didn't change anything when I was in high school or in college, and I had irritation from the chin rest, and I had back pain. I just kind of assumed, that's just what comes with playing the violin. It shouldn't, though. I had an x ray done, and it showed my spine right at my neck was permanently pretty much curved this way and forward. And the doctor asked me if I was in some sort of bad car accident, and I explained, nope, it's playing the violin. But that was like, yeah, I like that should not happen. So I worked on how do I hold the instrument without really changing my posture. It should look how I would naturally stand. And granted, I actually need a little bit taller chin rest here to make this happen. I just changed the chin rest to a different one, so this one needs to be adjusted. But when I hold my instrument, I barely move anything with my body. I can still talk freely. I can move my shoulders, move my arms, and I'm not clenching down or using any crazy muscles. So I've really changed how I hold it because I saw what seemed like permanent damage done from playing. When I teach students, though, students want to do that when they start. And I could, try to adjust it by hand, but I found having them find that works really well. And I did an experiment with having students not use a shoulder rest to start, and it worked out great. I am not an advocate of never using a shoulder rest. I think they're fantastic. But when I have students not use one to start, they have to find a spot where it sits, and it sits without sliding. Sometimes the shirt material is kind of slick, so putting a cloth there or moving a shirt out of the way so it sits on the skin can help, but it needs to sit on the collarbone. If it's too far forward, it's going to slide. If it's too far back, it's going to slide. If it's too much on the shoulder, it's going to slide. So finding that spot on the collarbone, so it sits on your collarbone and between your thumb and knuckle on the index finger, and just finding that spot. And then for a week to a few months, depending on the student, we'll just play like this. So we'll do scales like this without anything else. It just sits right there and finding a way to be comfortable with it. So once I find the students comfortable with that and they're leaving that gap there, they're not scrunching the shoulder up, we put a shoulder rest here to both fill this gap and to add a bit of grip. I do have students at this point say they don't want one because it feels weird with one, but I force them to because I figure, I tell them it's better to be comfortable with multiple things rather than just one. And so the shoulder rest, same thing, it sits on the collarbone and that just fills that gap. So it should feel relatively the same, but we have a bit more grip here and we have two contact points now. And the height of the shoulder rest depends on the slope of the shoulder. So if you have more flat shoulders, the shoulder rest doesn't need to be that tall at all. The height of the shoulder rest does not have anything to do with the length of your neck, and I'll talk about that in a second. At this point, the students should be able to hold it with just one hand. And again, it's sitting on my collarbone and the shoulder. And same thing, even just one finger. I make sure to hold my hand under the instrument or have students practice this like over a bed, because even though they should be able to do this, they might not have that spot again. But that's where your jaw goes. So where I'm holding it with one finger or one hand, that's where my jaw sits. And again, the chin rest is a little bit too small, but that's where that sits. So I can hold it touching the collarbone, shoulder, and this just kind of prevents it from tilting this way. I do like the cradle shoulder rest, Kredd. It's either EL or LE. It's made of plastic. I don't really, it's not the nicest material, but you can adjust the height and where it sits, and you can really find a really nice structure. As far as just regular ones, this is the Ohrenform, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, OHRENFORM, and they come in different heights as well. So yeah, if it's not tall enough do not raise the shoulder rest. If you do, it often lifts it off the collarbone. And although I see people who play their instrument like that, and I used to have a wolf shoulder rest and I had it super tall, you're going to tense up that muscle there just to hold on to it. Okay. At this point with my students, though, even when they're playing, I don't want them to have their chin down a lot of the time. I want them to play it like that. If they're shifting up, they don't need to put their chin down. If they're shifting down, yeah, you do. Unless you're lifting it up and trying to use the gravity, you kind of need to have your chin down to do that. But at this point, they're so used to the collarbone and their shoulder touching, this isn't clenching so much as more of just putting a little bit of resistance for that. And same thing with vibrato. I'm a big advocate of the arm vibrato with more of a relaxed wrist and relaxed fingers. It's a whole different video though. But the chin isn't doing too much, just adding a bit of resistance so I can talk while I do this and I'm not having to clench down. It's just a very little bit there. And that seems to prevent a lot of the violin hickeys, a lot of the pain, and just always checking on it. I have students, I tell them to practice in front of a mirror. So every so often when they're playing, they'll freeze and just see, does this look like what it would look like if I didn't have an instrument up? Like, would I look from doing this? Does it look like something's weird instead of this? And I'll have students start like that and just place the instrument in their hand. So to answer some questions about how do they do vibrato or shifting, you do need to add that down, but because it's progressed from not even a shoulder rest, they're used to balancing it at that point. And we're not adding that down as tension, but more just a little bit of resistance from the violin slipping. And it takes practice. I mean, I've been playing for almost 30 years, and I'm still adjusting things. Same thing with bow hold. I've done a bunch of different styles of bow holds and found what I feel is most comfortable and most relaxed. And in the end, the thing that I tell all my students is that you should be relaxed when you play. If your pinky's like this, that's not relaxed. If your hand's like this, it's not. If you're done playing and something feels really tense, then you're not relaxed. It could feel tired, especially if you've never done anything without a shoulder rest. Your arm is going to feel tired, but if it feels like you were tense, that's not what we want. And yeah, there's no end to it either. Throughout 30 years, 50 years plus, you're constantly building your muscles and developing muscles to do a certain thing. So there's no end to it. You're constantly developing it and getting better. And with vibrato, that's really a muscle development thing, which is why you won't have students 1 week in doing this really nice vibrato or being able to do a faster, slower, change it up, because they literally have not built the muscles to do that yet. So hopefully that helps answer the question. I know I went off on different tangents, but if you have any questions on holding an instrument or anything else, let me know. Put them down in the comment section below or just write me directly. Thank you very much for watching.